My name is Twee Nguyen. Occupation, I'm an IT consultant. Activism, getting girls to learn. Education and girls. I am on the board of Women's Empowerment and Voice, which is a nonprofit that provides scholarship for girls in Vietnam to go to school. Just to encourage them and to provide them a pathway to help their family, empowerment for themselves, and in a way to their community and the country overall.
Now, just to clarify, are you Vietnamese?
Yes.
And did you grow up in the area, or did you grow up in Vietnam, or?
I came here when I was 7.
Okay. Could you tell us what it was like for you growing up in Vietnam and growing up in this area or wherever area you moved to?
So we were part of the boat people movement after the war, and we literally got on a boat. I should say escaped onto a boat is the more correct terminology, because with the Syrian refugees and the war activities in Syria, it kind of reminded me of what we had to go through, but in a different way, of course. And so we just very similar to a lot of the stories you hear in the news. We had a broker who kind of brought us to a boat, and all of us were supposed to meet at a certain destination, but my mom got split up and she got caught by the police, and we got split up and we got to another area where we were able to get to a boat. So luckily for us, we were able to move ahead and got to a refugee camp in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and from there, that was just a processing of the Red Cross in order to get us refugee status, and sponsored by the U.S. government and actually by the Catholic Church over here.
What kind of ways did the Catholic faith impact your family in terms of traditions to gather and reasons to be together? Did you guys go to church every Sunday? Did you practice
Yeah. And actually, I can tell you the other reason why I still, to a certain degree, practice the Catholic faith is because the nuns. I went to Catholic school all my life, even up to college. Rosenwald is a Catholic college, and so Catholic school was where I learned about justice, and so that was where I learned about people who have taken care of the poor and been there for those who have suffered injustice, those who don't have enough who are homeless, who don't have food on the table. We are supposed to be there to clothe the poor and help the homeless. So that's the start of where my understanding of where I needed to take responsibility wherever I can in order to help others.
Were you involved with any extracurricular things after school?
Yeah, so the good thing about during that period of time was we had Christian brothers who were Vietnamese in the Philadelphia area who were very active in making sure that all of us kids had things to do. We had our own kind of form of scouts, or so during the summer we had camps. We had practice for volleyball, soccer, trivias, all various activities that we got involved in, so that it was still a sense of community, even though we were not in Vietnam anymore, and we were able to make friends and interact with one another. So in that way, it really helped us to cement who we are, and helped us form our identity too.
At all ever recognize or feel that you were different from the American students that had already lived there their entire lives, or ever have...
Definitely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so there's a level of alienation and not understanding the culture. Very basic is not understanding the culture and not understanding the mechanics of society, not understanding small talk, not understanding how to get together with friends, and because that was not done at home. So how do I think about it, and how do I practice it when I'm living in the dorms? One of my friends had a surprise birthday party for me, a little get together in dorms on senior year, and I was so shocked about it. I didn't really understand how to accept that. I walked in and they said surprise, but then I was just kind of dumbfounded. I just stood there. I didn't know how to say thank you. I didn't know how to say, wow, I appreciate it or anything like that. But I think I've learned now what is, I think I can say I'm more fully integrated in the community and as an American, because when I go back to Vietnam, I know I'm an American more than anything else in Vietnam. So I can't even consider myself, I would even say I'm 80-20 in terms of who I am right now.
You weren't involved with or you became the president of the Asian American Society at your university. How did you start joining that club and becoming president?
That was very empowering, and that was during a time period in the 90s where Asian American Studies was starting to bubble up. And before that, you guys, this kind of class wouldn't have existed. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't even be a blip in somebody's head to have African American Studies, Asian American Studies, or Latino Studies. So this is something that I actually talked to the administrators about having some Asian American Studies courses. We had a course on the Vietnam War, so that was unusual to actually focus on it. And I did my senior thesis on the POW and MIA issue. So again, it was something that I was encouraging, and I'm sure my other friends from other universities were doing the same thing. They were looking at things that broke kind of the modus operandi. Same thing covered white America, what white America has accomplished, instead of all the facets of our American history.
And so, do you believe you were fueled by your what had happened in your past and your background with leaving Vietnam and coming to America, but being supported by this rich Asian community? Did that kind of motivate you to want to become more and more involved within the community and to give back to the people that have given to you?
Definitely. I could not agree with you more. Not only because the nuns, I did feel like there was a community looking out for me, even though a lot of times it was just very awkward and didn't understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. So Catholic schools and the teachers that were involved, and then the community around us kind of bolstered the idea that nobody's going to fight for you unless you step forward. Nobody's going to give you a voice unless you voice your opinion. And history is written by the winners. And so unless you put your imprint out there and voice your concerns, it's still going to continue until you make it known.
Are there specific injustices or problems that you feel more aligned with or more like impassioned to solve?
Gender equality.
Okay.
I mean, then that's why I got involved with WEAV, to help out in my small way with girls' education and providing scholarship for girls, so that instead of their parents investing in a farm of ducks or buying whatever it is in their household, they don't believe that having a girl educated is worth it. Whereas we step in and we say, hey, we're willing to invest in your daughter. Would you be willing for us to help her to go to school?
So how long have you been working with WEAV?
On and off for 5 years, but the last 3 years has been as a board member.
Okay. And have you seen any major changes with the organization since you started?
We are steadily growing, and we're still very small. I mean, I think we have 7 board members, and we are the funders too. So as board members, we actively contribute our own funds in order to make this happen. I think last year we provided 500 scholarships in Vietnam.
And because they're your own funds, do you feel a certain sense of pride, especially when you get these scholarships?
Yeah, we're very invested in these girls, and we do want to see them progress, and we continue to support them as they progress in their grades also. And just recently, actually, this is interesting for you guys to know. So Michelle Obama was just in Vietnam in December, and she visited one of the sites that we provide scholarships in the Mekong Delta, and we're part of her Opportunities Alliance for supporting girls in education worldwide. So we're very proud of that, and we're glad to be participating in that.
What motivates you to like keep on fighting though you have those times where you have to step back and reevaluate? Like what pushes you to keep doing what you do?
Constantly, if you see, again, if I see injustice, I just that's the tug that keeps coming up, and I know how it feels to be in their shoes. So coming over, I mean, my dad didn't have barely much in his pocket, and for him to have come over and raise 3 kids.
That course was, you had a course on the Vietnam War
Yeah.
in college?
Yeah.
Especially since being someone that like your life completely changed as a result of
Exactly.
the war.
Exactly.
Did that, when you were setting up the course, did you specifically vocalize for the Vietnam War? Or
Yeah.
did that just come about?
Yeah, so of course we learn about the various aspects of American history, but I specifically asked to have some kind of concentration on some kind of perspective that was outside, that had, I don't know, just a different way of looking at that class than the regular way of looking at that class, a European way of looking at that class. And I guess now it's just getting involved with these girls' lives and meeting them. I go back there around August and September to meet with them and actually hand over the scholarships to them directly, and hearing their stories about what they had to go through in order to just get a bike to get to school, or not being made fun of because they didn't have the right clothes when they go to school, or actually some of the girls used their scholarship money to help their parents because their parents didn't have enough money to take care of them, or just putting food on the table. So it's that kind of holistic look. I never knew that giving these girls scholarships would have an impact on their family too, and I thought it would be just a direct benefit to them. But here I'm hearing stories about, oh, well, my mom is sick and she was abandoned by my dad, and so it's only me and my mom, and she doesn't work, and so this scholarship is the only way that we can actually survive. So it's those kind of stories that kind of touch you.
What do you guys want to accomplish in the future, basically?
So she has her vision is to expand the funding so that it includes more grants from the government, USAID, State Department, to private sector grants from Apple, Google, and various companies that are out there in order to match or to increase our funding pool in order to give out more scholarships. And then we're expanding into vocational classes for the girls, or just like we talked about, emotional intelligence classes in Vietnam. That I didn't even know this was a big thing, but I'm told that just teaching the girls soft skills. How do you interact with a job interview? How do you ask people to see if they have an opening for you? How do you get connected to people so that they'll keep you in mind for later opportunities for jobs and so forth? Those little things that we may take for granted, these girls are coming from poor families where they don't have role models, they don't see people who do that. So how would they know what it looks like? So those soft skills are something else that we are looking into. Career training, those kind of things. But it's in the plan, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes out.
Great. And with your network, you just said, you mentioned you have another friend that is at University of Maryland. Of course, our teacher Phil teaches at Maryland as well. How did that network develop to become so strong? It seems like you guys are still very connected and play like a large role in each other's lives. How'd you guys become almost a family, or almost?
It's I promise you, with people that you have a connection with, you will find a way to connect with them, and it will ebb and flow. Like I won't hear from Phil maybe a year, and then all of a sudden it will pop up like that year that we will be talking to each other every month or every week or so forth. So, and it's also with my my high school best friend. it's ebb and flow. So some years we're seeing each other every month, and then she's in Philadelphia still, and I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are certain years where we talk to each other once a year. But it's that connection that you still are in contact with each other, and it makes life worth living. I mean, we're all human beings, and we're not lone creatures, and we thrive on the human interaction and being in each other's lives.
Finishing up, if there's anybody watching that feels strongly towards your issues of gender inequality and would want to show some support, do you guys have a website? Do you guys have any?
Oh yeah, WEAV has a website. It's WEAV.VN.